watching Gearz, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
In the automotive world, there are some parts that have reached almost legendary status. At the top of that list is the Supercharger. Long revered in the racing world as the ultimate power adder, the blower is also recognized as one of the best ways to get some serious power out of a street engine. But street superchargers have come a long way since the early days of a 671 sticking out of the hood. Today, you're going to find them lurking under the hood of just about anything. Cars, trucks, whatever. And the reason for that is, a while back, a company named ProCharger decided it was time to build a better supercharger. Take a look.
You know, we're the largest aftermarket supercharger company in the world. We have the resources from engineering through production and through all of our machinery to ensure that things are done right. You know, we take care at every step and we do it all. We do it all in-house.
The ProCharger starts out as a cast aluminum housing that arrives ready to be machined. And this is where things become high-tech really quickly. Since the centrifugal design is far more intricate than the root-style blower, it's very important that all the internal components be of the highest quality possible.
We use 6061 for mainly all of our brackets and stuff, and then 7075, which is an aircraft grade aluminum for all of our impellers.
Once the aluminum is cut, the blocks are sent off to be machined into the proper part. And to make sure that all the parts in a ProCharger work as they should, the parts are all manufactured in-house on high-end CNC machines. This includes everything from pulleys to the impeller blades.
Our tolerances have come a long way throughout the years. What's helped that is not only the equipment we have here, but also the people we have working the machines.
With all the machining done, the assembly can begin. And this is where you start to see just how many parts go into this design. The impellers are perfectly balanced to ensure that they will spin true at insanely high RPMs. The precision parts are all subject to yet another inspection to make sure that the bearing bores, the mounting surfaces, etc. are all within spec. And since the ProCharger has an integrated gear drive, everything has to be assembled by hand to incredibly tight tolerances. Now, all of this precision makes it possible for a ProCharger to spin for hundreds of thousands of supercharged miles with no problem.
And we got guys with 100,000, 200,000, actually above that, 300,000 miles on their supercharger units.
Another thing that makes the ProCharger unique is the use of an intercooler to cool the air charge and deliver more power. And all of the intercoolers are hand fabricated in-house to control quality and allow for any changes or modifications that might be needed.
Welding is an art. We handcraft everything that we make here. We don't use robots.
Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, that's all there is to ProCharger. Well, no, building the ProCharger is only half the battle. The other half is making it work properly on your vehicle.
Engine calibration is just extremely important. We have an outstanding calibrations team to make sure that not only do we make the largest power gains in the industry, but also that you have outstanding drivability, you get great fuel economy, just the overall driving experience is outstanding, and that's what matters.
As soon as the manufacturers come out with new vehicles or engines, the ProCharger crew will grab one and tear it apart to figure out how to fit it with a ProCharger. Repeated dyno runs are used to determine what kind of boost and timing that the engine will handle, and what kind of power gains are actually possible. Because remember, the purpose here is to supply lots of reliable horsepower.
Our power is extremely repeatable, predictable power. Some other forms of high performance are not only not reliable, they're not real predictable, right? And that can, in turbos, right, when they spool up, that can create problems on the street.
The result of all this tuning and engineering? Bolt-on kits like the one on this Mustang that added over 300 horsepower. Let me repeat that. It added over 300 horsepower.
Bolting on a blower in a weekend just makes you fall in love with that vehicle all over again with all that extra power.
You know, there's a lot of companies out there that try to do a lot of things good, and that's fine. But then there's some companies that focus on doing one thing better than anybody else. That's ProCharger. And you're either gonna have one of these on your vehicle, or you're gonna wish you did.
Gearz on the Road is brought to you by LMC Truck. Restore, maintain, customize.
For this segment of On the Road, we invited 17-year-old Gearz Nation member Logan Pettit to drop by the shop so we could check out his pride and joy, a 2004 GMC Sierra. All right, how many miles is on this thing?
It's got 173.
Another reason was to help him get it breathing better with a cold air intake and a cowl induction hood, all courtesy of LMC Truck.
Kind of in a bad spot.
The only stipulation to this deal, he had to get his hands dirty and help me put it on. Even though he'd never done anything like this before. Pull it straight forward, but that was no problem. He jumped at the chance to learn how to do it. In just a few minutes, we had the old air intake stripped off and the new one sliding into place. Logan, go ahead and fire this thing up.
All right.
Once that was done, the new cowl induction hood was bolted on and adjusted.
All right, you got it?
Then, since we had a little extra time, we sat down and hit a few licks. Me on the McPherson, Logan on a classic Martin D18 that he got from his grandfather.
How do we end this thing? Here we go.
All right, man. Take care. After that, it was time to say goodbye and send another happy gearhead down the road. Do you think we should tell him that he forgot his Martin?
Now, quick tip. Brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs. Born to burn.
You know, one temptation that every gearhead faces once they finish a project is to just take the old stuff and toss it in the trash. Now, obviously, if the parts are shot, like suspension components or steering or exhaust systems, yeah, throw those away. But if you've just upgraded parts like steering wheels and seats and radiators and grills, man, you might want to keep that stuff because it's valuable. You can either sell it or you can trade it on more junk that you need. Or you can just stick it on the shelf and hold on to it, because sometimes you might want to return the vehicle to stock because you might want to keep those good parts and put them on your next project. But if you do this, make sure that you label the parts so you remember what they came off of. This is especially important if you seem to collect a lot of junk, because once you label it, it's not junk. It becomes spare parts, and your wife will fall for that excuse every time. If you'd like to learn more tips to make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website.
Tool Tech. Brought to you by Cornwell Tools, the choice of professionals.
You know, one question that we get a lot from people that are into metalwork or want to get into metalwork is, I've got my hammers and dollies, now what kind of tools do I need to take my metalworking to the next level? It's a good question, and you're going to find that the tools are cheaper and simpler than you might think. For example, for bending or rolling metal, a slip roll like this and a sheet metal brake like this are a must. This is just a small example of the things you can build with these tools. And you can get them in different sizes, so you can get one to match the size requirements of your shop. To help shape metal, a simple sandbag station and a stationary dolly will allow you to form and shape and planish metal into some amazing shapes. The next tool is a foot or hand-operated shrinker stretcher. This will allow you to make curved flanges for floors or rocker panels, dog legs, window channels, whatever. Now, obviously, there are more tools out there. Some of them can get pretty pricey. But if you'll get a version of these that we've just shown you, You'll be surprised how affordable they are and what kind of cool stuff you can build with them. You know, a few years ago, we had the opportunity to introduce you, the Gearhead world, to a company named E3 that claimed that they had built a revolutionary spark plug, one that will give you more power and better fuel efficiency all at the same time. And as history has proven, they were right. Because E3 has not only become the hot street and performance plug, but also the plug that powers engines that are winning in NHRA Top Fuel and Funny Car events. Now, that's all great stuff, but E3 is one of those companies that likes to continually move forward. So the next logical step was for them to develop their own line of high-performance ignition components to go with those spark plugs, and that's exactly what they've done. Check it out. First up is their Diamond Fire billet race distributors for Ford and Chevy engines. The internals are all state-of-the-art electronics for extremely accurate spark, and they're available with mechanical or vacuum advance. The heat-treated billet housing ensures that this thing isn't going to flex on you even when things get hot. The Diamond Fire 6 CDI ignition box is designed to give you all the spark energy that you can handle at 530 primary volts and 45,000 secondary volts. It has a sequential fire starting mode for faster, easier starts, and a soft chip rev limiter to help protect your engine when you hit the limit. And it's all wrapped in a tough aluminum housing with easy plug-and-play hookups. Of course, every ignition needs a coil, so E3 developed a whole line of performance coils that range from the traditional round hot rod coil all the way up to the Chevy LS, the Ford Coyote, and the Chrysler Hemi OEM replacements. If you need a coil, they got them. Now, just in case you think they're getting away from their spark plug roots, now think again. Because those cool race plugs that they're using in NASCAR and NHRA Top Fuel, you can now buy them. Also, after years of people asking, they have come out with their own 8.5 millimeter spiral core race wires. So all that power that's coming from that distributor and ignition box and coil, you know is actually going to get to these plugs. You know, engines have changed a lot over the years, and so have ignition systems. And sometimes it's kind of hard to keep up with what's out there. The goal of E3 is to take out all the guesswork and offer a complete ignition system for whatever you're driving, street car, hot rod, or race car. It's about time somebody did this.
Cutting Tech, brought to you by sawblade.com. No middleman, no markup, no problems. Go direct.
When it comes to cutting metal, the question that always comes up is, do you always need to use cutting fluid when you use a saw? Well, the best way to answer that is to look at what cutting fluid does. It lubricates the saw blade and keeps it cool so it lasts longer and cuts better. And most big saws that cut heavy stock have an automatic feed of cutting fluid directed right at the cut. However, most vertical band saws and hand saws don't come with that steady feed of cutting fluid. So the question is, do you need it? Well, no, not really. But there are some things that you should do to help your saw blade survive. First is to cut slowly and let the saw do the work. This will help keep the saw blade cool and cutting properly. The more you force it, the more quickly you're going to ruin the blade. Then, to help with lubrication, a quick blast of cutting oil every once in a while is all you need. If you start to see smoke, back off the pressure or add fluid because things are starting to get hot. And that's all there is to it. Remember, the trick is to keep the saw blades cool and well lubricated. And if you do that, your cuts are going to be straight and your saw blades are going to last a long time.
And now, Parts Bin.
If you're restoring a 73 through 87 square body GM truck, you know two things. Number one, the rubber weather stripping around that vent window is shot. And number two, replacing said rubber is a pain in the butt. Well, LMC Truck has finally come out with a solution to that problem with these one-piece vent window assemblies. Check this out. Now, as you can see, they've got the brackets, they've got the window channel. I mean, this stuff is usually all rusted up and bent and destroyed. You got new metal here, that's usually bad. You have new tempered glass. You've got a new chrome lock that works just like original. Everything is sent to the proper tension, just like the factory. And the best part is, you've got nice, soft, new rubber weather stripping. It makes this feel like it just rolled off the showroom floor. The best part is, installing these is just a matter of sliding them into the door and bolting them in place. If you've got a square-bodied Chevy, you're gonna want these. And the only place to get them, LMC Truck. Everybody knows that the new Dodge Challenger RT, SRT, and Hellcat are pretty wicked cars right off the showroom floor. The problem is they don't sound wicked enough. They're a little on the quiet side. Fortunately, you can fix that and add a few extra horsepower at the same time by bolting on this heartthrob 3-inch performance catback exhaust system. Now check this out. And what you're looking at is 3-inch 409 stainless steel tubing. It has your H-pipe here. Then it flows into dual performance mufflers that have a nice rumble at idle and then sound really good when you stomp on the gas. Then it goes out through the tailpipe into the secondary mufflers. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but all of the hangers are welded in place and you have all the hardware. So installing this is basically as simple as pulling out the old system and bolting this in place. If you have a Challenger, well, you know that there's times you need to unleash that beast and let it run. Heartthrob can give it its voice. If you're working on a classic Chevy car from 1965 to 1989, I'm talking Chevelles, station wagons, Monte Carlos, Impalas, Camaros, all of it. Well, you're probably going to want to put a set of headers on it. Fortunately, Speedway Motors has got this set of long tube headers that will fit a small block Chevrolet in any of those chassis. Now take a look at this. First of all, you got nice thick flanges so they're not going to warp on you. Then you have smooth mandrel bends so you're going to get the flow that you want. Then you have the right bend, so they'll actually not hit the frame and not hit the starter. Nothing worse than a set of headers that don't fit. Then, of course, you have a high temperature coating on them, so they're going to look good for a long time. You're not going to have to repaint these every 6 months. So, if you want to put headers on your classic Chevy, get rid of those stock restrictive manifolds, bolt these on. Your right foot and your motor will thank you. You know, one hot rod part that's been around for decades is the exhaust cutout. You know, the little valve that you open up and it allows you to bypass the muffler and run wide open? Well, Hooker has come out with a whole different version of that with the Attitude Adjuster multi-mode muffler. Now, at first glance, this looks like a typical muffler. But what they've got is an exhaust cutout built right into it here. So when you close it, the exhaust is bypassed through this pipe, which runs through the muffler and muffles it down. When you open it, the exhaust runs straight through, no muffler, wide open. But there's more to it than that. Check this out. It's controlled with this controller inside the car. So you can set it to different settings like touring or sport or race. And every one of those allows the muffler to self-adjust as you're driving, so you don't have to touch anything. Now, if you want to do it manually, you go to manual mode. You can dial in exactly how much you want that thing to be open. It also has this mute feature, so if you're running down the road and you see a cop, you just hit the button and it closes down the muffler and mutes it. Then when you're past the cop, you hit the button again and you're back running wide open down the road. The best part is Hooker builds these mufflers as a direct bolt-in replacement for late model cars or as a universal kit so you can drop one into an early muscle car or hot rod. So if you've ever wanted an exhaust cutout, kind of stayed away from them because you heard they leaked or didn't work right, well, you just need an attitude adjustment, and the Hooker multi-mode muffler will do that.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Michael Heitzer from Saxonburg, Pennsylvania, and his project is a 1970 Roadrunner. That's cool, but this project has a very unique story behind it because Michael's youngest son, Ben, was also a big Mofar fan, and he used to go to shows all the time and argue back and forth what was cooler, the 69 or the 70 B-body. Unfortunately, he said his son passed away a couple years ago at the age of 23. So Michael knew he wanted to do something, first of all, to help get through the pain and also to pay tribute to his son. So he took on this project of a 70 Roadrunner, which was his son's favorite. Now, as you can see, they got a car and they tore it apart. They did the undercarriage and frame. Now the car is in the body shop getting ready for the final primer and blocking. And once he gets it back, the reassembly is going to start. Now he says that the original 383 motor still needs to be rebuilt, but it's good. The 4-speed's in good shape. So they're going to do the car back pretty much original, which is the way that Ben would have liked it. Really cool project. Guys, to help you out with this, we hooked up with our buddies at Woodward Fab. We're going to give you one of these bench vices because everybody needs a big old vise to pound on from time to time. And we're going to hook you up with one of our project planning books so you can keep nice, accurate records of everything you're doing to that car. There we're going to give you one of our new Gearz shirts because you're obviously a big gearhead. And then we're going to give you an O'Reilly gift card to help offset some of the cost of that. Now, if the rest of you guys want to get in on this and get your project featured on the show, got to go to the website, go to Gearz Nation, go to What Are You Working On, and submit your project. The website's also the place to find out more information on any products you may have seen on the show, any Gearz merchandise, and how to join Gearz Nation so you can stream any of our episodes commercial free. Finally, don't forget to like us on Facebook so you can get some behind the scenes footage of our weekly web series, Shifting Gears. All right, that wraps it up for us today, which means that it's time for you to get out there and start working on something. We'll see you next time.